everybody, my name is Brandon and welcome back to my channel. Today I have yet another spooky Scott-ober video. This video is going to be on an experience that I went through in high school, and there are a lot of different aspects to this story and they span a few different years, and so I just wanted to tell all of it together in one story rather than separating them into several, because I think they kind of go together, obviously. So, without further ado, this story is titled, Was It a Warning? When I was a sophomore in high school, I rode the bus to and from school every day. I only had to ride for about 15 minutes since my home was closer to the school, so it was never too bad. Our bus was shared by middle and high school students because our county was so incredibly small. Everyone knew everyone else, and my graduating class was less than 150 students. My brothers and I luckily got to ride the bus together, and we always sat beside each other because we weren't really friends with our classmates. People who knew us always told us that we didn't really fit in with such a small town. They said we were big city-minded, which was something with which we couldn't agree more. There was another outcast on our bus, though. I'll call him Jim. Jim was bullied. A lot. He was in my grade, and I always felt so badly about him being picked on. I also look back and wish I would have stood up for him, but I too was scared that that would bring attention to me, which was always the last thing I wanted. Jim would speak to me occasionally. We'd read similar books and discuss them over the back of my bus seat. One time he told me he was a vampire, which, okay, was a little weird, but I never made fun of him for it. In fact, I just let it roll off my shoulder. I mean, who was I to tell him that he wasn't, you know? I just preferred to mind my business and be nice to him when the opportunity arose, because there's no telling what he's got going on in his life. On a late October evening, my dad called me around 6 p.m. I was at my mom's house, and it wasn't uncommon for my dad to call and let us know that we forgot something at his place. See, the bus would drop us off and pick us up at my dad's because my mom thought it was a better bus route than the one for her house. So my mom would take us to my dad's every morning for us to wait for the bus, and she would pick us up every evening after the bus had dropped us off. "Hey Dad, what's up?" I asked. "Nothing much. One of your friends stopped by a minute ago." One of my friends, I thought. I don't have friends. "Well, what did they look like?" I asked. "Well, he had kind of greasy black hair, and he was wearing a black shirt with holes in it." Jim, I thought. "Well, what did he say?" "He just asked if you were home. I told him you were at your mom's for the night. He asked where that was, and I told him I didn't want to give out that information about your mom. And I told him to just text you about it." That's weird. Jim has never come to my house to hang out before, so I don't even know where to begin with this information that my dad just gave me. "I just thought I'd let you know. Figured it's the first time he had a friend from school over, so it took me by surprise," my dad says, chuckling. "Ha ha, very funny. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. Bye," I say, hanging up the phone. My mind wonders why Jim would have come looking for me for another 20 minutes or so, and then I push it out of my mind. I continue on with my night, and when the time comes, I go to bed. The next morning, our bus is alive with murmurs, which is odd because normally our bus was dead silent in the mornings. When I get on the bus and prepare to sit in the seat that I normally sit in, I glance behind the back of my seat and notice that it's empty. I think nothing of it until I hear some of the murmurs from the students saying Jim's name. I pause my iPod and tune in. "I heard they arrested him last night. They found fucking bombs in his house. His grandpa didn't even know what was happening in his own house." What? Apparently, from information I gathered throughout the day before, Jim left his journal at school under his desk. The teacher flipped to the front page to see if it had a name in it so she could return it to its rightful owner. It had a name. In fact, it had 16 names, all under the title Hit List. She called the SRO immediately, and from there they called the police. Apparently, there were drawings of pipe bombs in this journal, along with illustrations of Baphomet and pentagrams. When the police got to his house, he wasn't there, but they found blueprints of the school taped to his wall, along with dead animal bones, and they found 3 pipe bombs under his bed. About an hour after they arrived, Jim got back home, and they arrested him on the spot. After his hearing, he was sentenced to an asylum for the criminally insane. Apparently, he had 3 different locations for where he would set out those bombs. Luckily for me, they weren't where I typically hang out in the mornings before school. However, one of my brothers hung out in one of those areas, and it hit me in that moment just how real this all was. I could have lost my brother because of this. Once, during my senior year, he escaped and came back to town, but the police caught him on the same street that I lived on. He was released by sophomore year of college, and a few months later, he murders a man on New Year's Eve. I sometimes wonder what he could have wanted from me that night before he planned the bombing of my school. Was he going to warn me to stay home? Was he going to ask me to join him and take part? Was he going to ask me to talk him out of it? I have no idea, and to this day, I still feel badly for him. He's been through so much in his life that I don't really feel comfortable putting into this story. My mom always called me weird for sympathizing with a murderer, which isn't how I saw it. I knew this guy before that went down, and maybe I just can't let myself imagine that someone like this was under my nose the entire time, and I had no idea. All right, everybody. So that was a very, very heavy story. I was debating on whether to put this into a video or not, just because, one, I don't want anyone close to him to see it, because I don't want them to think I'm speaking ill of him. Because, like I said, my small town was very small and everyone knew everyone. But also, it's just very dark and real. It's just kind of hard to talk about, especially with me being a teacher. It's definitely one of my biggest fears. It's scary, and I still get chills reading over this story, and writing it was extremely hard for me because, I don't know, it's just, like I said, it's just too real. And I'm just glad that the events he had planned for that day didn't come into fruition. So I'm just thankful for that. But anyway, that is it for this video. If you liked it, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Also, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you are notified every time I post a new video. My name is Brandon, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.